An incredible first date turned touching. When she revealed, "I have 2 kids. Will you stay or go?" Ben felt the weight of his last name hanging over him like the cloud of regret that followed him since the divorce. The small-town Midwest diner buzzed with life. The scent of homemade pie mingled with the sharp aroma of fresh coffee. He had his heart set on this date, willing to start anew, eager to shake off the shackles of his past. Then he met Sarah through a dating app that had promised hope, a flicker of possibility in a life that felt monotonous and weighed down by obligations and weariness. She smiled with an ease that made him want to lean closer and leave the remnants of his past behind. But as their conversation flowed, merging laughter and shared interests, a crack of uncertainty began to creep in. "I have 2 kids," she said, her voice steady, but the air suddenly thickened. Those words lingered like the last notes of a song he didn't want to end. Ben's mind spiraled. Did he really want to dive into a relationship that included not just Sarah, but also everything that came with her? Could he handle the complexities of being a stepfather? His heart raced as warmth nestled in his chest, shadowed by a familiar fear. Could he be enough? Memories of his own tumultuous family life rushed to greet him. The pressure to perform, to provide, to meet expectations. He hesitated. Before they could delve deeper into each other's worlds, the server placed their decadent chocolate cake on the table, but excitement felt topical amidst his swirling thoughts. Beneath the sweetness of the frosting lay a bittersweet truth. Complications loomed. If it had all been simple, he could have savored the moment, but the reality was a barrier that threatened to close in around him. Was he ready to take a leap of faith? Each bite of cake echoed reminders of his own childhood. The laughter of siblings turned to whispers of regret as their families unraveled. As Sarah recounted her everyday struggles, each tale of her children's ambitions tangled Ben's mind further. Their laughter, their stories, the visible love in her eyes, they shifted something deep within him, prompting an internal tumult. He was not just falling for her, but for the life she represented. Resilient, nurturing. Darkness brushed against joy. His own kids' laughter, now mere echoes in the void he had created, tightened his chest. Could he still imagine a family? Did he dare envision bringing his heart back to life in a world already filled with someone else's? Just then, Sarah looked at him with earnest intensity, and time slowed. The chatter of the diner faded, leaving only the tension of unspoken words. The gravity of her question echoed in his mind like a persistent drum. "Will you stay or go?" The uncertainty faded from her features as she patiently held his gaze. Ben felt trapped between promise and peril, each option unwinding in front of him like ribbons. His heart ached with the weight of potential rejection if he didn't take a chance. What if he chose wrong? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The diner resumed its rhythm, yet Ben remained in a vacuum, suffocating under the weight of his own indecision. He envisioned Sarah's laughter fading into the air if he chose the latter. Would he regret not reaching out? Anxiety twisted in the pit of his stomach as he recognized the raw urgency in her eyes. The future felt like a vast, uncharted territory, and he stood staring at the brink, grappling with the dilemma of stepping forward or retreating into safety. One moment to define it all, the chance to wrap his heart in hope once again, or the temptation to cling to the safety of solitude, the fear of building walls again. What would he decide? The answer remained elusive, a ghost lingering just beyond his grasp. The weight of indecision pressed heavier on Ben as he battled an inner storm, drowning in doubt about the path he wanted to tread. Time seemed to stretch, amplifying the sound of clinking forks and muted laughter surrounding him. Sarah's eyes, bright and expectant, ignited a flicker of something he thought lost: hope. With every heartbeat echoing in his ears, he confronted the image of a family he yearned for, but feared could never be his. The memories of his marriage, and its brutal disintegration, washed over him like a relentless wave, a reminder of what had once seemed so certain. Could he step into a new role where joy coexisted with scarred histories? He watched Sarah as she shared a story about her eldest son's school play, her expression brimming with pride. It was perhaps all those little moments that created a life worth living, yet the shadow of uncertainty stalked him. How would he fit into her beautifully chaotic world? Ben shifted in his seat, wrestling with a decision that felt monumental. Sarah's vulnerability stirred something within him. The hope that he could be a father figure, a partner, but also the fear that he would somehow falter. Strained seconds ticked by, the ancient clock fixed to the diner wall ticking down the moments of clarity he so desperately needed. "What are you thinking?" Sarah's voice broke through the haze, her brow slightly furrowed, concern touching her features. In that instant, Ben felt compelled to peel back the layers of self-doubt and explain his unease. "I'm just wondering what this all means," he stammered, his voice steadying as the urgency cut through the fog. "I've struggled to be everything my kids need. I don't want to dive into more complexities if I can't give my best." As the words tumbled out, a newfound clarity surged through him. His children were a constant reminder of the responsibilities he had. He wouldn't merely be assuming a new role. He would be sculpting a piece of art, intertwining lives and memories that meant the world. The gravity of it sent a chill down his spine while unlocking a deep sense of purpose. Sarah listened intently, nodding as he spoke. Her empathy wrapped around him like a warm blanket. "I get it, Ben. It's a lot to think about, but I'm not expecting perfection, just openness." This simple honesty disarmed him, moving the conversation from a transactional exchange to a deeper connection. For the first time in many months, Ben realized he wouldn't need to face the decision alone. If he chose to stay, he could shape his narrative alongside someone else's, co-authoring a story of resilience and blended dreams. His heart began to thaw, allowing optimism to seep in. But that joy also bore the weight of responsibility, a dual-edged sword reminding him of past failures. "And what if I can't handle it?" he asked with a tremor of vulnerability. "What if I fail again?" "Then we address it together," she replied, her voice steady, but her gaze unwavering. "None of us ask for perfection, just commitment to try." A breath caught in his throat. The closeness they shared now felt electric, lasting just a heartbeat but reverberating deeply. He drew in the scent of warm coffee mingling with the sweet undertones of impending change. With every heartbeat, he was on the cusp of a decision that could lead to joy or heartache. But the gravity of the moment shifted as Sarah's phone buzzed incessantly, breaking their intimate atmosphere. She glanced at the screen and her expression tightened, concern creeping back into her features. I need to take this," she whispered, standing to step away. As Ben watched her walk out of earshot, he grappled with a swell of doubt rising within him. They had forged a moment of understanding, but would that fleeting connection enhance their lives? Or would it rise and fall like a fleeting dream? His mind threatened to spiral again, focusing on the unrevealed doubts that could resurface. With Sarah out of sight, would he summon the courage when facing his own crossroads? The pulse of excitement that had filled the diner vanished, leaving him in a liminal space between choice and consequence. Would he be brave enough to embrace a life intertwined with hers, knowing full well the fears tied to that leap? As he sat alone, the tumultuous questions swirled, and one remained paramount. Would he rise to the occasion, or would fear pull him back into the shadows? One necessary confrontation lingered. What if he was ready to open the door to a future where the past wasn't a burden, but a stepping stone? As Ben sat in the cramped booth, the silence buzzed in his ears like an angry swarm of hornets. He grasped his coffee cup, the warmth radiating through his fingertips, an ironic comfort against his inner turmoil. The diner matched the chaos in his heart, filled with vibrant life yet marked by his solitude. He took a deep breath, the aroma of fresh coffee grounding him momentarily. Memories of laughter and joy flooded his mind as he recalled moments with his children, but they were abruptly eclipsed by the gnawing anxiety of his current reality. The conversation had shifted from superficial banter to raw admission, and the stakes felt impossibly high. What he had initially envisaged as a potential new beginning now loomed as an arduous moral tangle. His thoughts lingered on Sarah, her lilting voice and the innocence with which she had shared her life. He couldn't deny the connection they'd built, yet could he responsibly carry the burden of her children's expectations? Ben felt a growing sense of responsibility intertwining with desire, and that duality threatened to consume him. Each beat of his heart echoed a profound truth he had yet to confront. Engaging in this relationship might demand more than he had to give. Was he willing to step into a role that might leave him exposed, vulnerable? The scars of his past whispered incessantly, each failed engagement taunting him, reminding him of what he could lose. But beneath that negativity lurked a question that urged him to reconsider. What if he could break that cycle of fear? What if this time he could approach the challenge not as a potential trap, but as an opportunity? Elbows resting on the table, Ben started to organize the threads of his thoughts. Everything hinged on confronting his fear and wrestling with the continued shadow of his past. It was easy to slip back into negativity. He had done it for years. But now, with Sarah carving a space in his heart, he realized he might need to build something new, something worth fighting for. Hearing laughter from a nearby table snapped him from his reverie, awakening a dormant energy within. He started to recognize that, while uncertainty lingered, there lay a flicker of excitement, of potential. Perhaps the test he faced was not solely about whether he could integrate into Sarah's life, but about how he would respond to the challenge. The responsibility was indeed daunting, yet by embracing it, he could nurture a richer understanding of himself. His focus drifted momentarily to the window where the light from the setting sun spilled across the pavement, illuminating the path ahead. That light symbolized hope and possibility, two forces he had all but abandoned. It dawned on him that he could be the architect of a new chapter, one where he learned to navigate complexity, to redefine family, and to become resilient. He took another sip of coffee, grounding himself in determination. The overwhelming fear had transformed into a burning curiosity about what lay ahead. All he needed was to trust in his ability to grow. Just then, Sarah returned, her expression still tinged with something unnameable, but earnest. Ben steadied himself, ready to confront not just her, but the truth that had been brewing within him. He was willing to try, to seek, to embrace whatever unfolded next. As she settled back into the booth, he locked eyes with her and felt a raw pull of sincerity. "I want to understand what it means to be part of your world," he asserted, voice steady, as commitment started brewing within him. But just as Ben began to feel the swell of courage, Sarah looked grave once more, her phone buzzing again, and the weight of concern resumed its heavy mantle. "I need to resolve something," she murmured, glancing at the screen with a fleeting expression of dread. In that moment, as uncertainty crept back into the conversation, Ben felt the impatience of existence pressing in. Was this the moment of truth he'd anticipated? How would he respond when faced with the unsettling realization that their lives might intersect yet diverge once more, all depending on this one call? The answer loomed over them both. Ben's heart quickened as he watched Sarah's expression shift once more. The casual conversation had crumbled into something palpable, a tension tightening the space between them. He felt the urge to understand her, to leap in and share the complexities of his own fears. But the bubbling anxiety threatened to drown out any semblance of clarity. Instead of panicking, he compelled himself to lean slightly closer, ready to listen. "Take your time," he said, an unexpected calm cresting his voice. His own vulnerability had felt like a gaping wound. Now it appeared to settle into something more manageable. As she glanced down at her phone, he noticed the way her fingers twitched, betraying the calm persona she sought to uphold. Without thinking, he reached across the table, grazing her hand gently. It was a small gesture, but it felt monumental. This touch wasn't merely an invitation for her to return. It was a promise that he wouldn't shrink back from the reality she was facing. Finally, she looked up, her gaze steady but clouded. "It's their father," she confessed quietly, her voice tinged with regret. "He wants to see them for the weekend. I thought—" She hesitated. I thought this would be a chance for me to connect with someone new, but everything feels so complicated. Complicated. Ben could relate more than she realized. Every new connection comes with layers, he offered, his earlier insecurities melting away in the heat of shared truth. I don't want you to feel trapped between two worlds, and I certainly don't want to add to that pressure. What do you need? That question lingered in the air, its weight neither extravagant nor trivial. Ben watched as Sarah's shoulders relaxed slightly, her tension dissipating, revealing the vibrant woman who had walked into his life not long ago. I need to know if you're willing to be part of mine, she replied, vulnerability flowing through her words. It costs a lot to open up my life. I want to know if you can accept my children, if you can accept the circumstance we're in. Her honesty rattled him, but it also ignited a fire within. I'm not saying it will be easy, he said genuinely, but I'm willing to try. I want to understand what my role could be. At that moment, the universe seemed to hinge on a delicate balance, their pasts, present, and uncertain futures colliding. The diner faded away, the chatter dimmed to a low hum, and in the midst of this cacophony, clarity blossomed like a wildflower in the cracks of asphalt. The gaze they held was no longer tentative but grounded in mutual discovery, yet underlining this budding bond was the specter of reality. Sarah's phone buzzed again, this time urgent and insistent. She glanced at the screen, hesitation etched across her face. Ben, she murmured, biting her lip. I need to take this. It's not just about me anymore. Can you wait? His stomach twisted into knots, confronted with this new challenge that tugged at the edges of their fragile connection. Of course, go, he replied, forcing composure amidst the tempest in his chest. The last vestiges of doubt drifted into uncertainty as he watched her rise, bracing himself for what she would decide. What if the very thing he fought for, the bond they were forging, could crumble under the weight of an obligation he barely understood? As she walked away, Ben's thoughts spiraled. He had to decide not only if he was ready for this relationship, but if he was truly prepared to embrace the chaos it entailed. And just like that, the moment felt pivotal. The call could reshape everything. Could he redefine his understanding of family and commitment? Or would he merely watch another opportunity slip away? The answer loomed beyond, just out of reach. But Ben felt the tremor of determination build anew. He had chosen to act, to confront his unease openly, but he still had to decide how to navigate the path ahead, with Sarah standing at a crossroads. The truth, however, was more complex than any approach could ease. As uncertainty loomed, he realized he needed to resolve his own identity in this evolving relationship, a task far more daunting than he had imagined. But was he prepared to cross into this new territory, to redefine his role in the lives of two children he had yet to meet? The stakes were rising, and he knew he had no choice but to lean into the unknown, where challenges awaited, and so too, a life he had dared to envision. Ben sat alone at the booth, the lingering warmth of Sarah's touch fading like the last embers of a fire. He forced himself to focus on the patterns in the laminated menu in front of him, deliberately avoiding the chaos that was unfolding in his mind. Each pulse of his heart felt like a countdown, a reminder that time was slipping away as he waited for Sarah to return. What felt like hours passed before she finally re-emerged, her expression straddling the line between relief and worry. She slid back into her seat, but the moment of previous intimacy felt like an ocean away, overshadowed by the weight of unspoken words. Sorry, she said, her voice low. It was about the kids. Their father wants to pick them up earlier than discussed. The disappointment hung heavy between them like a fog. Ben sensed it, and with it came a renewed urgency. He was faced with a decision that carried stakes he had never anticipated. I understand, he replied after a pause, trying to measure the boundaries of his own emotions. What do you want to do? The simplicity of his question belied the turmoil brewing within. The kids come first. They always do, she answered, determination brightening her features. And yet, there was vulnerability woven into her assertion, a plea that he would understand her priorities. It was a dilemma that only deepened his perspective on the situation. Of course, he nodded, but his mind was racing, unraveling every possible scenario. How would they fit into each other's lives? What connection could he develop with her children? The prospect of assuming a stepfather role, however distant, felt overwhelming. In the past, Ben often shied away from commitments. They felt like cumbersome weights holding him back. Yet here he was, grappling with the potential for something profound, with the choice to step into a role he had never considered. Can I meet them? It was a bold question, instinct layering his vulnerability with a thread of excitement, a daunting invitation for both of them, tinged with risk. Uncertainty flickered in Sarah's eyes. I can't promise anything. Neither can I, but taking a step forward seems necessary, he countered, his own conviction surprising him. Was he really ready to open the door to two children? To learn the intricacies of their lives while grappling with his own hesitations? With every moment, Ben felt the heat of determination build anew. The question was no longer whether he wanted to be involved. It was about how far he could push himself beyond his limits. The shadow of their collective realities loomed, challenging him to embrace an adaptive mindset. Sarah's eyes softened as she considered his words. There was something almost transformative in the air between them, as if a bridge was forming despite the obstacles ahead. I don't want to put you in a position where you feel obligated, she finally said, an edge of fear creeping into her voice. Ben leaned forward, a fierce resolve animating him. I want to be part of your world, and that means facing the complexity. As the words left his mouth, he became acutely aware of the irony that had colored so much of his life. He had spent years avoiding the messiness that was relationships, yet here he was, craving every bit of it. Perhaps chaos was not merely a barrier, but a pathway to personal growth that had eluded him for far too long. They lingered in that gaze once more, a mutual acknowledgement that they were at the precipice of something both hopeful and uncertain. Then, without preamble, Sarah's phone interrupted the moment again, vibrating across the table with impending urgency. She hesitated but then reached for it. Ben's heart sank. His instinct was to pull back, to retreat. Yet he clung to the burgeoning possibilities of their connection, desperate not to let fear deter him. The decision loomed. Would he remain steadfast in this pursuit, or pull away at the first sign of difficulty? As Sarah's fingers danced across the screen, Ben realized that life rarely presented the clear paths he had searched for. And it was in these moments of chaos that real courage was born. His words hung in the air, resonating with the weight of commitment yet untold, leaving nothing certain. Could he genuinely navigate the turbulence of becoming not just a partner, but a potential figure in the lives of children? And would Sarah's life become his own, ready to embrace a fresh definition of family? The answer would arise before him, one that demanded he confront all the facets of his identity. And he welcomed it with bated breath, for it was now or never. Ben sat in silence as Sarah's phone call transitioned from murmured words to strained acknowledgement. Each beep of the notification was a reminder of an impending reality that Ben was inching closer to. He could feel uncertainty crawling beneath his skin, an awareness that he was on the verge of something monumental. The minute Sarah hung up, the gravity of the situation bore down on him. How do you want to handle this? He asked, focusing on the blend of curiosity and dread that filled the space between them. It's complicated, she admitted, a shadow crossing her face. The kids need to adjust to their father's presence, and I need to protect them. Ben's chest tightened at her admission. He recognized a fierce protectiveness in her tone, one that mirrored the instinct he felt in himself toward her. But how could he blend into a world already filled with challenges he had never faced? That question echoed painfully, driving him deeper into introspection. I get that, he said slowly, testing the waters of his resolve. If there's going to be any chance for us, I want to help make that adjustment. I want to meet them. Her eyes widened slightly, a sign of the warmth beneath her initial skepticism. You realize what this means, right? It's not just a casual visit. This is a leap. A leap. The word resonated with Ben, triggering a distant recollection of how he had avoided any jumps that demanded faith. He had always chosen the safety of predictability, the comfort of remaining uninvolved. But now, standing on the precipice of new possibilities, perhaps the only way was forward. "I've been too safe," he replied, channeling the accumulative weight of contemplation into a decision. "Maybe it's time to break the pattern." "That's easier said than done," she warned, though a flicker of hope sparked within her. "They're not just kids. They have emotional ties that are complicated. It takes a lot of patience to build that kind of relationship." "I can be patient." The confidence was evident in his tone, though a part of him quivered at the thought. Could he truly bridge the gap between the lives they each led? The doubt slipped in like a thief, cautious yet persistent. "There's no playbook for this," Sarah said, her voice becoming softer. "You might decide you want to step back once you see what's at stake." He contemplated her words. How often had he shied away from commitments because of fear? Maybe it's okay to not have a script. Maybe the unpredictability is part of the growth. Sarah regarded him thoughtfully, comparing the man in front of her with the one who had once avoided emotional entanglements. The thought brought clarity. This wasn't merely about joining a family. It was about constructing a new version of himself, one that could embrace complexity. "I'll talk to them," she said finally, her voice growing steadier. "I need to be open about us. It might not go as I hope." "That's all right," Ben replied, almost surprised by his own willingness to endure the unknown. "Understanding takes time. I won't rush anyone." As they settled back into a moment of shared silence, Ben felt the slight pulse of fear within him diminish. With each passing second, he began perceiving a new reality. This leap into the unknown didn't merely signify potential heartbreak, it also opened doors he had long kept closed. The lingering question of whether he could genuinely take this plunge was intertwined with the prospect of growth. Would he rise resilient on the other side, or would the impact of defeat echo in his mind? These thoughts spiraled, capturing every layer of his identity. But deeper still, beneath the converging uncertainties, was a budding anticipation. Could this endeavor unveil parts of him that had long languished in obscurity? As he looked across the table, catching Sarah's gaze once more, Ben understood this wasn't merely about overcoming an emotional hurdle. It was about discovering who he could become. Could he redefine his boundaries and emerge reborn through the intricate workings of a new family dynamic? "Let's take it one step at a time," he said, feeling an awakening sense of purpose. "But promise me this. If it gets overwhelming, we will communicate." Sarah nodded, a smile breaking the tension. "I promise." Yet as soon as that promise settled between them, the weighted truth persisted. The real journey was just beginning. The uncharted terrain loomed ahead, ready to challenge everything Ben thought he knew about relationships, identity, and purpose. What awaited him on this path? Only time would unveil the layers of charisma and connection, and he was ready to confront every nuance, no matter how daunting. Yet as they faced each other, enveloped in resolve, a new thought emerged. Would Sarah's children accept him? Or would he find himself thrust into a battle for acceptance that would test his newfound resolve? Ben spent the next few days consumed by thoughts of Sarah and her children. Each passing hour added layers of complexity to his emotions. With every trivial errand or idle interaction, a face crossed his mind, 2 young faces, in fact, blurred silhouettes against the uncertain horizon. Their acceptance seemed a monumental task, an intricate puzzle waiting for resolution. Yet the enormity of it also ignited a strange exhilaration within him, furthering his yearning for change. He had always valued clarity in life, predictable outcomes, comfort zones neatly outlined. But this invitation into Sarah's world resonated as a call to action. He needed to prepare himself not just emotionally but also mentally. How would he navigate these initially uncharted waters? After spending an evening researching techniques for introducing himself to new family dynamics, Ben pondered the myriad ways children might react. What would they want? His instinct told him they would require reassurance and honesty, but how to convey that he was there to stay? During this introspective period, fear tried to rear its head, whispering warning signs reminiscent of his past. Paralyzing doubt seemed almost ingrained in his psyche, urging him to retreat back to the safe edges of his life. But each time it surfaced, he quelled it with renewed determination. Based on his recent conversations with Sarah, this new version of himself needed to confront vulnerability and embrace uncertainty. The day finally arrived when he would meet Sarah's children. As he drove toward their home, every passing mile seemed to amplify the adrenaline coursing through him. His palms grew clammy on the steering wheel, heart racing in anticipatory beats of anxiety and excitement. What if they didn't like him? What if his efforts to connect fell flat at their feet like a forgotten toy? He parked his car several houses away to gather his thoughts, taking deep breaths to calm the storm of emotions inside. "You've got to do this," he muttered under his breath. "This is your chance to redefine what family means." As he approached the door, Sarah stepped out, recognition lighting up her face. She motioned for him to come forward, her smile a gentle thrust against his hesitations. "You ready?" she asked, clearly sensing the weight he carried. "Ready as I'll ever be," he replied, his voice shaking slightly. She led him inside, where the scent of cookies wafted through the warm, inviting atmosphere. Awaiting them were two children, a boy and a girl, their curiosity mingling with latent apprehension. They watched as Ben entered, their expressions cautiously drawn. "Hey there," he started, offering a tentative wave. "I'm Ben." The boy fidgeted, crossing his arms defensively. Meanwhile, the girl regarded him with wide eyes, donning a slight frown as though deciphering a riddle. Ben joined them at their level, crouching slightly. "I know this is new, and I'm grateful you're meeting me today," he said, trying to infuse his voice with warmth and sincerity. "Why are you here?" the boy finally asked, cynicism woven through his words. Ben inhaled, steeling himself against the emotional rawness in the air. "I care about your mom, and I'd like to get to know both of you. It's important to me that we start off on the right foot." A moment of silence followed, thick with the weight of potential. The girl's frown softened just a fraction, curiosity making a bold attempt to surface. But the boy remained unconvinced. "You could just leave," he asserted, his small face taut with uncertainty. "Our mom doesn't need someone else." The child's defiance felt like a direct challenge to Ben's intention. An inner conflict stirred. He knew pushing back wouldn't build trust. Instead, humility fought its way to the forefront of his mind. "You're right," he replied, voice steady. "It's not easy to have someone new come into your lives. I wouldn't want to intrude." Curiosity flickered in the girl's eyes, sidling up to her brother. "What do you like?" she probed, her childlike innocence acting as a bridge to conversation. "What do you mean?" Ben asked, genuinely intrigued. Do you like dinosaurs?" she continued, chipping away at the initial wall of unease. "Well, yeah, I do, but I don't know all that much. Why don't you tell me your favorite dinosaur?" As conversation flowed, Ben began to observe the dynamics between the siblings, recognizing the protective bond they shared. Their laughter, mixed with gentle teasing, emanated a warmth that seeped into him. For every joke shared and every skeptical glance exchanged, Ben felt a burgeoning hope. Acceptance could take shape through these simple moments, lessons not taught in academia but found in shared experiences. Yet, as the afternoon progressed, doubt lingered. Even amidst laughter and ease, would the children's initial skepticism transform into genuine acceptance? Ben couldn't ignore that nagging thought, for the day's success might be measured in their willingness to let him in. As the sun began to set, he recognized the hour had drawn too quickly to an end. In parting, Ben faced the duality of optimism and uncertainty once more. Hurdles yet to be overcome lingered in the shadows. Could he truly solidify this foundation within a family unit under constant evolution? All he could do was return the following week, each visit tethering his resolve deeper as he ventured down this new path. The hope for connection intertwined with fear of rejection still thrummed beneath the surface, vibrant and alive. As he drove away, Ben gazed into the darkness ahead, wondering how many more unseen turns awaited him in this delicate dance of belonging. Would their next encounter nudge him not just deeper into their world, but awaken latent parts of himself he'd yet to explore? The next week unfolded with a blend of anticipation and anxiety. Ben's thoughts ricocheted between excitement and dread as he prepared for his second visit with Sarah and her children. The familiar landscape glided past his car window, trees casting elongated shadows against the asphalt, as though the world itself held its breath in anticipation of what was to come. He parked closer this time, feeling the weight of his initiative more firmly upon him. Each step toward the door pulsed with an intensity, an unspoken promise to himself. This meeting would be different. He had learned from their first encounter, and he was more prepared to engage authentically. But the specter of doubt clung to him, a tight knot in his stomach. What if the kids still weren't sure about him? "Hey, Ben!" Sarah greeted him, her warm smile igniting a flicker of hope. "We're just finishing up a puzzle. Want to join?" "Sure," Ben replied, masking his inner turmoil with enthusiasm as he followed her inside. The cozy ambiance felt inviting, yet the complexities of the day stretched between him and Sarah's children like an unseen chasm. He settled on the floor beside them, peering at the half-completed puzzle. The pieces lay scattered like fragments of their emerging relationship. "What's the picture supposed to be?" he inquired, watching the children with rapt attention. "A dragon!" the girl exclaimed, pointing at the scattered pieces with glee. "Strong choice. I like dragons," Ben replied, feeling the initial tension ease as he picked up a puzzle piece. The boy scrutinized him, clearly sizing up the validity of Ben's enthusiasm. "Do you really?" he challenged, skepticism woven into his tone. "Absolutely. They're magical," Ben asserted, maintaining eye contact to show sincerity. "Plus, they breathe fire. Pretty awesome, right?" The boy allowed a hint of a smile to break through his defenses. They turned back to the puzzle, and with each piece that clicked into place, so did the nascent bond between them. This simple task became a canvas for connection. They began to swap stories about their favorite mythical creatures, each child revealing a morsel of their personality. Laughter bubbled between puzzle pieces, and Ben felt drawn deeper into their world. But even as joy thrived in those moments, a shadow loomed in the backdrop of Ben's thoughts. Was he approaching this correctly? The children were still oscillating between suspicion and curiosity, and Ben recognized the delicate balance he must maintain. After finishing the dragon, the conversation meandered to less mythical territories. "What do you do for work?" the girl innocently asked, tilting her head. "I'm a teacher," Ben answered, surprised at how far he had come in terms of openness. "I help kids learn new things. It's a lot of fun." The boy furrowed his brow. "Are you really good at it, or do you just say that?" Ben felt the challenge in the boy's eyes, the desire to probe and evaluate. "Good question. I'd like to think so, but teaching isn't just about knowing everything. It's about learning from kids, too. They teach me as much as I teach them." As he spoke, he realized a shift within himself. He was no longer just a visitor trying to integrate into their lives. He was stepping into a role where he could impact their world, both as a teacher and a potential family member. "Can you teach us sometimes?" the girl asked, her voice tinged with longing and adventure. "Of course," Ben replied, his heart swelling with commitment. "I'd love to help you with anything, math, science, or even art. We could create some cool projects together." In that moment, the sense of possibility enveloped him. He grasped the weight of what it meant to intentionally engage, inviting them to not just accept him, but to welcome the depth he could offer within their lives. However, as their laughter filled the air and the seeds of a new relationship blossomed, a lingering question surfaced. Would this moment translate into long-lasting acceptance? Would they embrace him as part of their family or merely tolerate him? As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the room, Ben's resolve sharpened. This budding relationship was an intricate tapestry he needed to help weave. Would his next action strengthen this connection or unravel everything he had built so far? Driving home, Ben felt a surge of determination, but also a buzzing vulnerability. What needed to happen next to solidify his place in their lives? He knew he had to confront his growing fear of moving too fast, of encroaching too deeply into a world he longed to inhabit. Tomorrow would be more than practice. It would require intentional steps toward genuine integration. The rising sun over the horizon mocked his uncertainty, promising revelations to come. How would he navigate the delicate balance of connection and personal growth in this household, evolving with every passing day? The challenge lay ahead. The next visit was a battlefield of emotional risks, and Ben felt the weight of his undeniably shaky foundation. The day arrived, tinted with a blend of anxious hope as Ben prepared for his next visit. He had spent the morning mapping out his approach, gripping onto the promise of growth as he rehearsed potential conversations in the mirror. He thought about the children, their faces lighting up with possibility as they engaged in playful debates over their favorite dragons and magic stories. Each mile he drew closer blurred with the weight of his own expectations. Would he be able to forge a deeper connection? Or would they retreat back into their shells, wary and uncertain? He parked his car, a mix of excitement and intimidation twisting in his gut. It was time to open up. "Hey, Ben!" Sarah called, her voice reverberating with warmth just as before. "The kids are excited to see you." "You'll never believe what I've got planned today," Ben replied, trying to match her enthusiasm while quieting the whirlwind inside his mind. As they settled in a snug corner of the living room, he revealed a bundle of art supplies. The kids' eyes widened in intrigue. "We're going to create our own mythical creatures. Anything you can imagine," he encouraged, handing them crayons and paper. "What if mine has a unicorn head and a dragon tail?" The girl pondered, her creativity flowing freely. "Perfect idea! A dragonicorn!" Ben laughed, spurring their imagination. He watched the children burst into giggles, their skepticism from earlier visits slowly dissipating like morning fog. But there was still a tension threaded throughout the air. Ben's fear of misalignment lingered, driving him to engage them further. "What do you guys think makes a creature truly magical?" he asked, steering them into conversation. "I think they should be kind," the boy interjected, glancing at his sister. "And brave." "Compassionate, too," Ben added, surprised at how natural it felt to voice these thoughts. "Just like humans. Maybe we all have a bit of magic inside." The boy looked at him, calculating. "Do grown-ups have magic?" "Absolutely," Ben answered, keeping his tone steady. "But sometimes they forget to use it." As they dove into their drawing, Ben found a rhythm, guided by their laughter and creative banter. He leaned into their ideas, validating each fantastical creature they conjured, and soon felt their trust build anew. Yet beneath the surface, shadows of doubt flickered in his mind. Was he really capable of being the steady figure in their lives? Could he handle this growing commitment? The gnawing question skittered ahead, waiting to be addressed. How could he make sure that this wasn't a fleeting visit but the start of a consistent role? Later, as the children sketched out their masterpieces, Ben took a moment to study them. They were drawing not just for fun, but as a bridge between their worlds. It struck him. This was a partnership in its infancy, and he needed to nurture it, propelling himself forward despite his trepidation. "What if we made our stories a part of something bigger?" he proposed, his heart racing with spontaneity. "We could write a book about our creatures." Their responses ignited a spark in the room, a sense of joint ownership over their creative universe. Kids' voices intertwined with the idea, crafting fantastical plots and characters. This was it, he realized. The floor he had been hesitant to tread could be a solid ground for mutual growth and fun. But then came the darker undertone of his inner voice, cautioning him against overextending himself. Was he truly ready to commit to this fragile dynamic? The lingering fear of rejection clawed at him, buzzing in an uneasy rhythm beneath their creative exuberance. As he prepared to take his leave, the last rays of sunlight hit the living room, highlighting the unfinished sketches on the table. There was promise in what they had created, yet uncertainty shadowed Ben's heart. What shape would their relationship take as he pushed further into their lives? As he drove away, he felt a swell of hope countered by a creeping doubt. The road ahead was filled with potential twists, and he had to confront his own fears of inadequacy. The next visit would require him to make a deeper leap, one where he would unveil his own vulnerabilities to solidify the connection they had begun to forge. Would he truly dare to lay bare his own humanity as they locked arms in the realm of imagination? What awaited him in this budding relationship? where magic and reality collided. And would he find the courage to risk it all to ensure they'd open their hearts to him? Ben awoke the morning of his next visit with a mixture of excitement and trepidation. His mind buzzed with possibilities. By embracing vulnerability in his previous encounters, he had built a budding connection with Sarah's children. But could he take the next step and further solidify that bond? Each heartbeat echoed this question, driving him toward a moment that could redefine his place in their lives. Driving through the familiar route once again, Ben's anticipation pulsed through his veins, each turn taking him closer to the warmth wrapped up in Sarah and her children. Today would mark a pivotal decision. It was time to unveil more of himself, to prove that he was not just a passing interest, but someone committed to walking alongside them. "Hey, Ben!" Sarah greeted him, her eyes shimmering with a sweet familiarity. "You ready for a day of adventure?" "Absolutely," he replied, trying to mask his nerves. "I've got a plan." As they settled in the living room, Ben brought out a simple board game, one that encouraged teamwork and strategy. "Today, we're going to build something together, but we have to work as a team to win," he explained, sensing the excitement and curiosity swirling in the room. The children were hesitant initially, but soon engaged with enthusiasm as they laid out the game pieces. Ben joined in on their laughter, letting go of his insecurities, and reminding himself that building connections meant diving into the messiness of emotional interplay. As he led them through the game, Ben seized the opportunity to weave lessons into their interactions. Winning isn't just about getting to the finish line first, it's about how we support each other along the way, he remarked, watching their faces light up with understanding. Each move was not just a simple play, but a chance to reinforce empathy, trust, and partnership. "Just like our creatures," the girl exclaimed, her excitement palpable. "They had to work together to accomplish their adventures." "Yes," Ben affirmed, watching them grow increasingly animated. "Just like every great story. It takes teamwork, communication, and understanding, qualities that make each adventure special." But the thread of concern still clung to him as the game transformed from mere frivolity into something deeper. How would they perceive his efforts in the long run? Would they understand the depth of his intentions, or might they view him as just another fleeting presence in their lives? As laughter filled the room, Ben's heart began to swell with hope, flickers of satisfaction igniting within him. Each triumphant moment felt layered with promise, as if this experience could be the cornerstone upon which he could build something lasting. Yet as the game progressed, he began to notice glimmers of doubt in the children's eyes. "You're not going to be here forever, are you?" the boy asked suddenly, voice laced with caution. "What happens when you get tired of us?" The question hung in the air. A heavy silence ensued. Ben instinctively knew this was the moment to lay his cards on the table, a chance to underscore his commitment to them. "That's a fair question," he began, filled with conviction. "I won't lie. Relationships require effort and they require time. But I want to be here for you, overcoming the complexities. I'm not looking for a way out. I'm hoping to create something real, with all the messiness that comes with it." He watched the boy's eyes flicker with caution, yet there was also the hint of curiosity. "Like you said, it's not just about winning, it's about the journey. That includes facing our fears and building trust over time." "Okay," the boy replied, skepticism still lingering but softening in the wake of accountability. The girl, sensing a shift, leaned closer to Ben, her grin brightening up the room as she chimed in. "I like that idea too. Can we tell stories together next?" As they laughed and continued their game, Ben felt the impending connection start to solidify. In that sacred space, they navigated not just the board but their hearts, sharing glimpses of who they were and letting him in just a little bit more. Time slipped away, with the echoes of laughter and light-hearted competition. But as the sun dipped low outside, he felt the gentle weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. Ben recognized that to truly become part of their world, he needed to cultivate that bond with Sarah as well. She had navigated the complexities of parenting with grace and resilience, and he felt an earnest desire to support her in every way possible. The game wrapped up with cheers and high fives, a collective spectacle signaling their success, a victory that felt like more than just achieving a goal. It signaled trust and collaboration, a real step toward deeper involvement. Before departing, he gathered both children in a gentle embrace, drawing them close. "You both made me feel welcome today," he said earnestly. "And I want you to know that I'm here for you, no matter what. I believe in this new adventure we're starting, a family of our kinds." His words resonated in the room, reverberating with tender honesty. They held separate realities, but in that moment they intersected, forging a fragile yet promising path forward. As Ben drove home that evening, light spilling through the windshield, he felt a sense of accomplishment wrapping around him like a cloak. He had taken a leap. He had chosen to expose his heart and create space for new possibilities. With every passing day, the bonds would deepen, twisted with both joy and vulnerability. And he was ready, profoundly aware that the journey would be neither easy nor linear. But for the first time in a long while, he embraced the messy beauty of it all. Tomorrow he would return, walking further down the exhilarating road he had chosen, discovering not just who they could be together, but ultimately who he could become in the process. Each step was solidifying a new story, not just of two children and their mother, but of a man committed to the intricacies of love and family, ready to conquer the uncertainties that lay ahead. This was his new beginning. This time, he finally felt he was on the path toward lasting growth. If you resonate with stories of personal transformation and the journey of building connections, you absolutely need to subscribe now. This is your chance to witness more exclusive emotional stories that will move you deeply. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to experience the power of personal commitment and growth. You'll be helping spread inspiration that can change lives. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and ensure others discover these incredible stories. And comment below your thoughts. Did you connect with Ben's journey? What do you think awaits him next? Share your reactions and theories. Your input is invaluable to us.